Hello creative friends, welcome back. I appreciate you for joining me on this video. Now we're going to be creating the apex line, that's the dart line. On that line we'll create the front slit. Now because of the many things we have to do, I decided to use a pattern, not my fabric. So I have my pattern paper here and it is folded into two, so please make sure you fold your pattern into two. There's a reason why, and you're going to be seeing that. Now the width of my pattern is my round hip divided by 4 plus 1.5 inch allowance. You can make yours 2 inches or 3 inches allowance. Now the length of my skirt is going to be 18 inches. That is how long my skirt is going to be. So if you want yours longer, you can make it 20, you can make it 22, but I made it 18 inches and I'm still going to hem 1 inch in. Now so this is the length. The top of the pattern paper is the waist point, obviously. I'm just going to write that down. And now from the waist point, I'll place my tape and go down to mark my hip points. So you know, when making your skirts for the beginners, you only need these 3 points: your waist, your hip point, and then the length. Now I'm just going to go ahead and mark the horizontal measurement, which is the round measurement, and the first is the waist. I'll divide that by 4 and then I'll mark that down. I'll divide my round waist by 4. I'll mark that down. Beginners, this is how you draft your skirt pattern. Now the next thing is my hip. I'll just go ahead and divide my round hip by 4 and I'll mark that down. Now I tried to make the video the top and the skirts together, but it was too long. I'll explain why. Now what I will do now on the length, back to the pattern, what I'll do now on the length is I'm going to mark what I have on the hip on the length. I don't know if you guys understand, like the measurements I marked on my hip, that is what I'll be marking on the length. So I'm just going to take the line straight down, but to do that I have to mark my 10.5, which is my round hip divided by 4. So I'll just mark that down and then I'll just connect that to the hip line. And this is how you draft out your skirts pattern for the front piece. Now I'm just going to go ahead and create the dart line, and this is my nipples to nipple. Now this is how you get your apex. You divide what you get from one nipple to the other nipple, you divide that number by 2. And now I divided I got 4 inches. I'm going to mark that on my waist point, on my hip point, and also on the length. I decided to change the marker so you guys know that this is the apex line, so you guys know that this is the apex line, and on the apex line we'll be marking our slit and also the darts. Now so for my waist dart, I'm just going to move ahead to the waist to create the waist dart. I'm going to come down by 4 inches. And now on the apex line, I'm going to mark half an inch on each side of the apex line. Like I'm just going to go in by half an inch and then I'll go out by half an inch on the apex line. So I'll mark half an inch here and half an inch to the other side. Now I'm just going to connect those half inch down to the 4 inches. And you guys, if you add the half an inch together, the half an inch I took on this side and on the other side, you find out that together I have 1 inch that's on the waist. So I'll replace that later as my sewing allowance. So this is the darts. Now I'm just going to do the same thing on the length, but this time around is for the slits. I'll go up from the length, I'll go up and mark where my slit is going to start from, and that is 6 inches in from the length, like from the base of the skirt. I'll just go up by 6 inches. Hope you guys got that. And now I'll come back to the length. I'm just going to come back to the length and I'll mark 1 inch in and 1 inch out, making it 2 inches altogether. It just depends on how wide you want your slit to be, how if you want the leg to really show, like just like mine, you just take 1 inch on each side. If you don't want too much, you just take ½ inch. Now I'm just going to connect each of those 1 inch to the 6 inches starting point. That's the slit starting point. I'm just going to replace 1 inch back on all the pattern, and it's like just my allowance. So that is what I'm doing here, marking my allowance, 1 inch allowance. Now I'm just going to go ahead and cut this out. This is the front. Now I'm just going to extend my hip line. This is how I adjust my zip. So I'm just going to mark 1 inch on the waist and also on the base, and then I'll connect the 1 inch to the 1.5 on the hip. That is why I extended the hip line from the pattern. I extended it out to the fabric, and I'm just connecting the 1 inch on the waist to the 1.5 and then to the length. I'll go ahead and cut this out. So this is where the zip is gonna sit. And you guys, this is my back piece. So I'm just going to indicate the wrong side. This is the wrong side of the fabric. I'm just going to go ahead and notch the darts. So I'll notch it so it's going to be on the other side of the fabric also. Okay, so now to cut out the front piece, I'll go ahead and open this pattern. I'll open it up. I already made a mistake. I was about to cut the slit out with the other one attached, and I remembered, and now I'll show you guys how to cut this out. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut out the slit like this, and then from the slit I'll go to the dart point, and I'm cutting out the darts we took there. I'm also cutting out the 2 inches we marked on the length. So basically what I just did now is separate the pattern from cutting the dart and the slit. The pattern is separated. I can go ahead and place this on my fabric and cut. So remember, you don't have to fold your fabric into 2 because you're cutting the full front. Like, you don't have to fold your fabric into 2. So I'm just going to place my pattern, and then I'll mark 1/2 inch allowance on the points where we have the dart and the slit. So I'm marking 1/2 inch allowance because of I'm going to sew this. I'm going to attach them back. So this is the sewing allowance I am leaving for this. So I'm marking it on this side. I'll also mark on the other side. So I'll go ahead and cut this out. You can use your pin. I just used my phone. So remember to leave allowance on this part where you have your dart and your slit, because you're going to be joining them together and you need your sewing allowance to be there, especially on the slit. So I'll also notch the dart on the other side of the front piece. I'll notch the dart. I'll indicate the wrong sides, and then this is how I'm going to sew. I'll place the right side facing right side, and then I'll go sew on the wrong side. I'll sew by the 1/2 inch I left. So I'll sew in the dart, and then before I go to sew, I'll indicate where I need to stop for my slits. So that is 6 inches, remember. So I'm just going to indicate the 6 inches, and I know that my seam is going to stop here. My sewing is going to stop at this line. And this is the back piece. I'll go sew this in. Also, I'll sew it by 1 inch. Now you guys, I am done with the front, and this is how it looks. Now you can see the allowance here sitting. So now I have allowance on the slits, and when I want to hem, it's going to be easier for me to hem this with my hemming gum. So I'm just going to iron this out so it looks flat and nice. As you can see, the slit is open and it is clean. Yeah. And at this point, I realized I love the fabric I used. At first I was doubting, but at this point I started liking the fabric. So now you guys, this is the front. I'm just going to fold it into 2. Now I need to drop the front waist by 1 inch, so I'm going to fold it into 2, and then I'm going to mark 1 inch down. This is the front waist. After folding into 2, I'll mark 1 inch down, and then I'll mark 3 inches in. You can mark 3 inches, you can mark 2.5, but I'm marking 3 inches in. I'll go ahead and connect the 3 inches to the 1 inch with like a curve. This is just dropping the waistline. That's the front waistline. I'm just dropping it by 1 inch. So I'll connect and I'll cut that part off, so I can go join the front to the back piece. So now I'll just place the back piece on the front piece and I'll go sew. So this is the back piece. And you guys remember I said I tried making the skirt video and the top video together. I tried putting them on one clip, and it was too long. I didn't want the video to be boring for you guys, and I wanted to really explain this so that anyone can make it. The beginners, the people that have no idea about sewing, I want them to be able to watch this video and be able to create one for themselves, like especially this Christmas period. So I'm just going to go ahead and sew this by 1/2 inch. I'll sew the sides by 1/2 inch. Now I have the fabric for the band, and when you're making your band, add 5 inches to your round waist. So if your round waist is 32, you add 5 inches, you get 37. And the width of my fabric here, the wideness is 5 inches. So what I'll do is I'll fold the top of the fabric and the base by half an inch. So when I'm done folding by half an inch, when I fold this into 2, I get 2 inches worth of band. That is how wide my band would be, 2 inches. So I'm just going to go ahead and fold in the base by half an inch, and then I'll fold the top like this too by half an inch. Now 1 inch is gone for my 5 inches, so I have 4 inches. So when I fold this, I get 2 inches worth of band. So this is it, half an inch up, half an inch down. I'll go ahead and fold this into 2, and now it is 2 inches worth of band. I'm going to go ahead and start editing the video for the top, so you guys can be able to create it immediately after creating the skirts, and you have your 2-piece set for your holiday period. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my seam ripper to open up where my zip will sit, and this is going to be 6 inches down. I'll place my tape and mark 6 inches down before I use my seam ripper to rip this open. This is the seam ripper. You can use your razor or just use anything that can be able to open up this the seam on this part. This is where the zip allowance is, so open up to where you want your zip to stop. And now this is my band. So this is how I always join my band to my skirt. What I do is I sew from the wrong side. I'll use the half an inch folded on the base, the half an inch here. I'll use the half an inch, I'll place this on the wrong side of the skirt, and then I'll sew. And once I am done sewing, I'll go ahead and flip this to the right side like this, and then I'll now top stitch on the front side, and then that is how I always attach my band. And now I am done. I'll go ahead and attach my zip to this. So in case you don't know how to attach your zip and you're a beginner, you've never done this, I have a video that shows you what to do. So just go watch that video and you're good to go. You can be able to create this. Please don't give yourself any excuse. Try, you can be able to do it. So now I also went ahead to weave this. I took this to the weavers and they did the weaving. If you don't have time to weave, you can go ahead and fold this twice on this part. That's the slit part. You fold it twice and you sew on it, and your slit is locked, and then you can sew on your base to the base of the skirt. But also, if you have time, please just go weave it. So what you do is, after weaving, you can use your hemming gum to hold the slit down, and also once you're done holding the slit down, you can hem the base of the skirt. And you guys, that is how I was able to create my skirts. And I love this so much. I cannot wait to start attending events for this holiday period. I have so many outfits already, and I just can't wait for people to start inviting me for events so I can just slay in the outfit I created myself. So you guys, stay tuned for the sewing video for the top part. I'll be uploading that soon. And you guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you creative, thank you beginners. If you're seeing my video for the first time, you know what to do. Just go ahead and click on the subscribe button. It is absolutely free, so just do that so you can be updated on when I upload my videos. And trust me, more fun videos to come, more nice things, cute outfits to come. And you guys, I love you so much. I'll be seeing you on my next video. Bye.